He couldn't hang with my freestyle. 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 He couldn't hang with my freestyle.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Crazy House, and I'd like to welcome you all to another Fan Art Freestyle. Today I'm going to be drawing some Zoanoids. If you are not familiar with what a Zoanoid is, I don't know what you're even doing clicking on this video. I would assume most of you that have joined this video know what this type of creature is, and a Zoanoid is the monstrous villains from the manga and anime series Bio Booster Armor Guyver. So I've been a big fan of the Guyver ever since the early 90s. Like, the first thing I even heard of it was I saw the live action movie that came out, and it was on cable, and I saw it just by happenstance, just happened to be flipping through the channels, and I saw it. You know, I'm a big lover of monsters and creature effects, so I saw those practical creature effects and I was like, what in the hell is this? And I decided to sit there and watch it, and I was sucked in. And thanks to a good friend of mine who has the same name as I do, back in middle school, he let me borrow one of his manga magazines, and it showcased that Guyver was actually manga and anime series, and like the magazine kind of went through the whole history of this creation, and you know where the manga and the story and the anime was at the time. So I learned about it from there, and then going to the video store, I just happened to pick up some of the anime VHSs back then. They only had, I remember going to that video store and they only had two VHS tapes, but it was 4 episodes of the series. So like there were 2 episodes on each tape. So I got those, and it's been on and popping with my Guyver fandom ever since then. So today I wanted to kind of start a little bit of a series as far as my fan art freestyles goes, where it comes to creating fan art that involves characters from the Guyver series and the Guyver property. And I want to start off with just these very classic Zoanoids here. So these are the Zoanoids that the series kind of starts off with and kind of gets us very familiar and kind of takes us in to the story. So if you've ever watched the US renditions version of Guyver, or you ever seen like the OVA that came out called Out of Control, you'll recognize some of these Zoanoids here. I'm going to be doing Gregol, I'm going to be doing Vanmor, Ramochis, and the failed Zoanoid Malmot. And he's kind of the one that's very important because he sort of is the one that kicks the entire story off. Without Malmot, there would be no story of the Guyver. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever seen it before, you know his character kind of gets lost in the sauce and forgotten, as time goes on. But without him, there would be no story. He's the catalyst for this entire story and this entire manga and anime that we all love. So I'll be drawing him as well. So those will be the classic Zoanoids I draw. And as time goes on, I'll probably do some other series of drawings and fan art on this channel. But we'll just start off with these ones right here. And I'm going to do them traditionally. I'm going to draw them with pencil, ink them in, and then I will color them with traditional means. I'll use some Copic markers and some color pencils, and even like some highlighters here and there, and that will be my traditional artwork done here on some Bristol paper. So sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy seeing this artwork done. And I'll be back at the end where I kind of critique my own artwork and kind of give you just an overview if you are not familiar with this manga series. So, I'll be right back, and you can sit back, relax, listen to the music, and watch me draw. Right, people? Let's go. Okay, good people, so here we are at the end of my Zoanoid fan art, and I'm going to do a little bit of a critique of my own work here as we look at what I've done here with the Zoanoids through traditional means. Let's start off here with Remote Cheese, and he is off here in the top left corner, and I'll do a close-up of him so we can get a look at him a little bit better. So I think I did a decent enough job to where you get the idea of what the character looks like. It doesn't look exactly like I remember in my head, so I'll just be honest with you. For Remote Cheese and for Grey Gold, I went off of memory. That was just a personal challenge to myself. I didn't look at any references. I went from straight up what I remember of the characters, and I used, just with the mental images I had in my head of these two characters. The other ones I had to kind of look up to kind of remind myself of certain parts of their anatomy. But so for Ramochi's, it looks close enough, and this is the version I remember more from the anime series, the first one that came out back in the late 80s, early 90s by US Renditions. And if I can critique my own artwork, I think I went a little too crazy with the color pencils, because you can kind of see some of the lines in there, the color pencils. But I was trying to get that fur texture correct. It's still not perfect. It's okay. It's good enough for a sketch, but I really wanted that fur texture to look good. I think the other Zoanoids that I did that don't have a lot of fur look a lot better. But his fur is a little off. And like I said, it's almost like a close approximation. So Ramochi's almost kind of looks like some sort of bat, like a hairy bat, by the way his face and the ears and the eyes look. So that's what it always reminded me, like a werewolf type bat in the way it's designed. But he's supposed to be the most simple of the Zoanoids to replicate by Chronos. So you'll see him the most frequently, either, of course, in the first few episodes and the first few mangas, and also in the backgrounds of a lot of the different artwork that is done for Guyver. So he's pretty much cannon fodder for Guyver, basically, because there's no way this Zoanoid could ever stand up to the Guyver. He's not strong enough at all, but he's the basic type of Zoanoid, and the one that they can make the most available in the Chronos Corporation and with their soldiers and their citizens. So, moving on, I'm going to do a review of my version of Vanmore now. Now, like I said, this one, I had to actually go and look up some references, and there are different versions out there. Like, if you look at the original art done by the creator of Guyver, Yoshiki Takaya, it looks a little bit different, just ever so slightly. Like I said, I've studied these characters for so long, I can tell a little bit of difference in how different artists draw them. So there's a little bit of a difference with how it's drawn between the anime series and the original manga, but I think I did a good approximation. And the skin tone, I went for the skin tone that was used in the Guyver OVA, Out of Control. And that one, they colored Vanmore a little bit more of a golden type color, because I always felt like his colors in both the original anime series and even like with the manga, they use a very drab, washed out, almost like rust or reddish color. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something a little bit more vibrant, because I wanted his laser beams that he has on his shoulders, I wanted that to stick out. So I was like, well, let me see if I can find something a little bit more with a little bit more contrast here. So I went with the golden skin. He kind of looks like a featherless chicken or bird or something like that. And you can see his lasers, his infamous lasers that he has in his shoulders, kind of sticking out there, done more in a pinkish, hot pink color or fuchsia type colors. So once again, I think I did a decent job with this one. This one I had actually an actual reference, so I think I did a better job in approximating the character. So let's move on to the big one here, Gregol. Gregol is the muscle of the original Classic Zoanoids, and I think I did a great job as far as like getting him done or getting him drawn from memory. And the reason I was able to do that is because I've drawn this character so much. He was one of the ones that I used to draw just on the side of my notebook when I first started like reading Guyver and learning about the Guyver and watching the original cartoon, because I just loved his design. It very much reminds me of like a monster that you would normally see in Japanese like folklore or in their fantasy and sci-fi. Like he reminded me of like from something from like Godzilla. So always very fun to draw. So I was able to draw him basically from memory, and I think it turned out pretty good here. And I didn't get a chance to draw his full body. Like I would probably need a reference. I was going to do the whole body just to get it correct, but just from a bust perspective and from a side view, a profile, I think I did good. And even with the colors, I was able to, obviously he's going to be green because that's his colors in every popular media, whether it be manga or anime. But I wanted to add a little bit of vibrancy there, so I added some like almost like a green highlight with the color pencils to give it, you know, on the edges to kind of give him a little bit of a sheen on the outside and to brighten him up in certain areas, and you know, so it's kind of like a greenish yellow. So I think that works good for the character, and you know, gives him some very otherworldly qualities. And once again, you know, Grego is the muscle one, even though he can't stand up to the Guyver. He's the one that, even though he's so strong, it shocks everybody that the Guyver is able to beat him. If you remember, in the original manga and in the original anime, Guyver breaks his arms in a very violent way. So Grego suffers the worst usually when fighting with the Guyver in the original manga and the original anime. So, and we move on now to the final Classic Zoanoid. We got the one that started it all. We got Malmot. And Malmot is the Zoanoid who escaped from Chronos and was going to sell the Guyver units off in exchange for being helped, because he didn't want to be a Zoanoid anymore. And not only that, he wasn't even finished yet. He was a Zoanoid that was not completed. Like, they were making a Zoanoid out of him, and he wanted to be changed back into human. And so when he transformed into his monster form, he looked horrendous. And it's actually pretty sad, and I feel sorry for the character, that the fact that he had to go through that, and the fact that this was his last stand. But if nothing else, he's the one that started everything off, because had he not stolen the Guyver units from Chronos, they never would have got out into the open. Sho never would have found it and become the Guyver, and you know, Chronos' plans would just have gone without a hitch. But Malmot is the one that messed it all up by stealing the Guyver units. Now some might say, well, it was Agito is the one that got him to do this in the first place, but you know, Malmot is the one that had to do the heavy lifting, right, while everyone else stood back. So I think he turned out well as far as like a profile goes. This is still not exact. There's still some issues here, like even with the reference, like, because there's a few different versions of it, and he's drawn very simply in the manga. Like, the manga is a little bit more simple because Yoshiki Takeya's style evolves over time, just like any artist does. And as he's drawing the characters longer and longer, you see them change. Like, even, you know, I'll get to this later on, but the way he drew Guyver 2, he almost looks exactly like Guyver 1, but as we go on, he retcons Guyver 2 to have that asymmetrical look. So like I said, his art style changes as time goes on, and even Malmot is drawn in a very simple fashion. Now the character has evolved because of not one, but like he's been in like 3 different anime series at this point. So each time they draw the character just a little bit different. So I just wanted to get the best approximation so you know which character we're talking about here. And I think I did a pretty decent job, and wanted to show just how malformed he is. The fact that he has like patches of hair growing out in places, and his face is one color, and it, you know, around his neck and his chest, that's a completely other color. Like, he's missing patches out of his skin. You can just see the muscle. So he's all messed up basically. And once again, very pitiful character. Sad that what happened to him, but his sacrifice is where we get the story from in the first place. So overall, I think I did a decent enough job with the way he looks. So this is my fan art of the Classic Zoanoids from Bio Booster Armor Guyver. I will continue with this series by doing a few more different renditions of the characters that I really like. And you know, you can let me know in the comments section what you think of this fan art, especially if you are actually a fan of Bio Booster Armor Guyver. Let me know what you think of my renditions here. And Once again, if you are not just a fan of this type of artwork, but just a fan of me and what I do on this channel, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're here next time for when I upload any new content that involves showcasing my art style. So guys, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next time on Chris Crazy House's Fan Art Freestyle.